Thank you. Thank you very much. Thanks all for coming here, spending your Saturday morning with us. First of all, if there are any questions along the way, feel free to ask away because we're small enough setting. We should have a lot of questions. I'm going to show you the things that I've done that got me started and my system. There's a lot of different systems out there, but this is my systems that I've learned for many, many years. My background, I started as a Lelehua High School football statistician back in 1979. There's my high school picture. There's me. Actually, I'm on the golf team. That top picture, that's me long time ago. I was recruited by Hugh Yoshida. No relationship to him, but he recruited me because my classmate was his uncle. So that's where the connection began back in 1979. I started doing football stats with him. And then my first job at UH was being a statistician at the University of Hawaii Sports Information Office. And I started that in 1983. And then I just continued picking up stats as we went along. I worked from 82 to 92 at Sports Information. Along the way, I worked with K5, KHNO back in the 80s. I've worked with Natalie with HHSAA since 1998, compiling record books and things like that. So, you can make this, a forever part-time job, and you can be very good at it. And we're always, and Natalie will say at the end, we're always looking for people in the business of being a statistician. And later on, at the very end, we'll talk a little bit about, moving from paper stats to computer stats, because that's the wave of the future. Here's an agenda of what we're going to be going through today. We're going to talk about the real basics of keeping track of stats on the football field. We'll take a short break. We'll do a video exercise. We'll actually show you video, and you'll need to take stats from the video. After then another short break, and then we'll talk about plays and situations that happen during the game. So again, any questions along the way, please let me know. First of all, who has limited or no knowledge of football to begin with? Okay, Steph, that's fine. No, that's fine. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start from the beginning and talk about down and distance. Because that's the fundamental thing that everybody needs to know when they're spotting the ball on the field. So basically, a down is an offensive play, and you have between 1 and 4 downs. So everybody has 4 downs, and the goal is to make 10 yards or more. Distance is basically the number of yards needs to gain in order to get a first down. So that's basically what down and distance is. So, if they make the 10 yards, then you're given a new set of downs. Okay, and that's what they call getting a first down. Okay, so if you don't make the required 10 yards in 4 downs, then you turn over the ball and the other team gets the ball. So that's basically the fundamentals of down distance. Everybody needs to know that from the very, very beginning. So 1st and 10 means first down of 4 and yards to go is 10. So 1st and 10 is always the same across. First and goal means first of 4 downs, and goal means instead of gaining 10 yards for another first down, it is the goal line is the line to gain, in this case, to score a touchdown. Okay? So does everybody okay and fundamentals about that? Okay? All right. How to get a first down. Okay? You get a first down when the yardsticks are ordered forward. So in other words, if they gain 10 yards, the referee says first down, then the yardsticks go to the next marker. That's when you credit them with a first down. You also get a first down if a touchdown is scored if there was an opportunity to get a first down along the way. So for example, the ball's on the 12-yard line and they score a touchdown, 12-yard touchdown pass, so to speak. Because there was an opportunity to get a first down, you credit them with a touchdown as well as a first down. Okay? Also, you get a first down when a penalty results in a first down. So example, it's 3rd down and 1 yards to go. There's an offsides on the defense. 5-yard penalty, results in a first down. So you credit them with a first down. You'll notice on your stat sheet, I have it broken down: first down by rush, first down by pass, first down by penalty. See? So that is the 3 different ways to get a first down. Okay? Okay, any questions on that? All right. You can, on a single play, get 2 first downs. So if the yards on the play results in a first down and an additional penalty on the play, normally 10 yards or more, will result in another first down. So, as an example, Team A's ball on the Team A's 10-yard line. Running back Aliko rushes for 20 yards to Team A's 30-yard line, and Team B is penalized 15 yards from that point to the Team A's 45. So you're going to credit Aliko with a rush of 20 yards, charge Team B with a penalty for 15 yards, and then credit Team A with a first down by rushing and a first down by penalty. Okay? So again, the play resulted in 10 or more yards, which would have moved the sticks regardless of the penalty, and then the defensive penalty would basically move the sticks again, so we would charge 2 first downs on the play. Okay? Okay. Now, there are exceptions when teams do not get a first down. On any kickoff, punt, interception, or fumble return, no matter how long the play is. Okay? Now, if the penalty is, if the play is over, and then we have a penalty enforced, that's when we would have a first down potentially on the play. Also, you don't get a first down if the offensive play, when the yards gained for a first down, is negated when the team possession is lost. So in other words, if there's a fumble on the play, he gained 12 yards, there's a fumble on the play, the other team gets the ball, no first down. Okay? If I throw a long pass like 40 yards down the field, it's intercepted, no first down because the ball is turned over. Okay? Can we use the yardsticks as the example? If the yardsticks move, then that's a first down. But in this case, because of the fumble or interception, there is no first down. During a first and goal from the 10-yard line, since there is no chance to obtain a first down, the total yards gained is 10, but then no first down is awarded. First and goal, ball's on the 10-yard line. You notice when you see a play like that, the yardsticks are not there anymore. It's just the down marker is up, right? So there's no opportunity to get a first down, even though you're giving them, because the ball's on the 10-yard line, even though on the stats you're giving them 10 yards, because there's no opportunity to get a first down, no first down is awarded on a play for a touchdown. Okay? Hope I'm not going too fast. Everybody pretty much get that. Okay? Okay? Now, the next most important thing is spotting the football, because that's going to determine whether or not you have a first down or not. Okay? So if any part of the ball is touching the vertical plane or the hash marks above the stripe, the ball is spotted from that yard line. Okay? Now, if the football is in between 2 hash marks, spot the ball forward towards the next line nearest the intended goal. So, for example, Team A is driving to the right. The ball is placed here. Where's the ball at? 19.
What side of the field are we on?
See, Team A is driving this way. The ball is placed there. Where is the ball on? Ball is spotted on the 20 because the ball is touching the 20-yard line. Even though it's technically sort of like inside the 20, as long as the ball is touching the marker, it's considered the 20-yard line. Example number 2, the ball is spotted in between the 20 and the 19. The ball is on the 19-yard line. Okay, good. Okay. So again, use the hash marks as your guide to where the ball is located. Now, for those of you who are on grass fields and stuff like that, it's a little bit harder. So no longer that problem in Kahuku. But so that's why I appreciate going to Kahuku this year. Grass fields are a little tougher, so you have to kind of use the yardstick guy, the guy that has the down marker, as your guide for that. Okay, There are some exceptions now. Exception number 1, on a change of possession, it is possible that the yard line for one team may not be the same for the other team when the ball is turned over. So, for example, if the ball is here on 4th down, they advance it to this spot. The team A, in this case, who is on 4th down, drove it to what yard line? To the 19-yard line. Perfect. Okay? But now that team B has got the ball because team A failed to advance it on 4th down, the ball is spotted here. Where is the ball now? For the 20-yard line. That's correct. So the 20-yard line for team A on the new possession, for team B on the new possession. Team A drove it to the 19-yard line. Okay, exception number 2. In certain situations where there's less than 1 yard to gain for first down, spot the ball 1 yard behind, because keep in mind, we have to remember 10 yards, generally speaking, is a first down. So, for example, 1st and 10 at team B's 30-yard line. This is A driving. We're on team B's 30-yard line. Okay? On first down, team A drives the ball between the 20 and the 21-yard line. So where is the ball spotted for second down? So it should be on the 21-yard line. Because even though the ball is spotted between the 21 and the 20, on a normal circumstance, we would say the ball's at the 20. But if we say the ball is spotted at the 20, that's 10 yards and a first down. But we always have to account for 2nd and 1. So even though 2nd and 1 is really a half yard, you have to mark the ball at the 21-yard line. Okay? So that's one of the exception number 2. Okay? Exception number 3. When getting a first down, when the ball is spotted just outside the defensive team's 10-yard line, record the yards gained to the 10-yard line, but respot the ball to the 11-yard line. That sounds kind of counterintuitive, but let me show you an example here. 1st and 10, the ball is on team B's 21-yard line. Okay? The ball drives between the 10 and the 11-yard line, good enough for a first down. But, as you can see, where ball is at the 10.5-yard line, they can get a first down if they drive it inside the 1-yard line. Okay? So, for purposes of statting, the ball is credited with 11-yard gain from the 21 to the 10-yard line. But for the purposes of first and goal, it's no longer first and goal because the ball is still, you can gain 10 yards for a first down. So the ball is then respotted on the 11-yard line, 1st and 10 at the 11-yard line. Okay? That's exception number 3 of spotting the ball. Okay? The 4th exception, when the ball is between the 1-yard line and the goal line, with the forward point of the ball closest to the goal line, the ball is still considered to be spotted at the 1-yard line. Pretty straightforward, right? Because the rule says if the ball touches the goal line, it's a touchdown. So once it's outside, even though it's not touching the 1-yard line, it's still considered to be on the 1-yard line. Okay? I fed you a lot of information at this point. Is there any questions? I'll say right off the bat, this PowerPoint will be available for you at the end, so you can download it, you can print it, you can keep it for your reference. So take some notes, but you don't have to be a detailed notes. Okay. Let's talk a little bit about the stat sheet. Okay. This is my 7th generation of stat sheets. I basically created this stat sheet on my own. It's basically to try and cover everything when I was doing either radio or television and things like that. This is in the format that what radio and TV would like to see. Let's say if they were looking over your shoulder and they need to read your numbers, or if you want to write it down and give the information to the broadcasters, this is the easiest way for them to take a look at how you do it. There's a whole bunch of different stat sheets out there, but this is something that I've created myself. What's just as important as the stat sheet itself is the play-by-play sheet. And the play-by-play sheet is something that is almost just as important, because let's say you didn't have the stat sheet. If you keep an accurate enough play-by-play sheet, you can then transfer the information onto the stat sheet, but having the play-by-play sheet is going to be sort of like your safety net, just in case if you need to recreate the game or if you had to compile the stats. The play-by-play sheet is the most important thing. Okay. Taking play-by-play, helps speed. In case if the game speeds up, the play-by-play sheet is just as important, because you see teams like that just go without a huddle. By just keeping the items on the play-by-play sheet, it's easier to keep as the game goes along. Also, I should mention that if you're taking stats, especially if you're on the field, it's almost important to have a spotter with you, because having, hey, if you're by yourself, that's one thing, but it's always better to have a spotter with you in case if you need to take different stats. And I'll show you some of the different stats we'll be taking, because for some of you, you might have to take defensive stats, or some of you might have to take certain special team stats. And so having a spotter with you also helps as well. Okay? It's helpful to recap key scoring plays or game-winning drives by having the play-by-play sheet, because each drive on your play-by-play sheet should be marked so that you know that like Team A's ball is here, Team B's ball is there, and I'll show you as we go along how to do that. So this is how the recommended way of taking play-by-play happens. So let's go with an example. It's 1st and 10 on Team A's 20-yard line. This is the start of a new possession. So the first column represents the play number. The next is the down and distance, and the next is where the ball is located. So play 1, 1st and 10 on the A's 20-yard line. Okay. First play, Alika, and you'll notice that Team A, the names are all in first letter, all begins with the letter A, so that for consistency purposes. So Alika rushes to the A18. So I would say rush 32. And you'll notice, why do I say rush 32? Okay, you will learn one day that when you go to computer stats, one of the commands we say during a play is it going to be a rush? Is it going to be a pass? Is it going to be a penalty? So these are the commands that we say and we record on here, so that when you do eventually graduate to the computer play-by-play that the HHSAA does, it's always easier to reconstruct the game this way. So in this case, rush 32, the ball is on the A 18-yard line. So now you'll put A18 first, and then you can see right there that there's a loss of 2, so it's play 2 coming up, 2nd and 12 on the A18. So the 32 nets -2 yards. Okay? So that is how you would do a regular play. Next play, Adam rushes to the A23. So rush number 5. We're on the A23. You can see it's a gain of 5 yards. It's now 3rd and 7 at the A23. Give number 5 a gain of 5 yards. Number 11, Allen passes to Alika to the A35-yard line. So it's a pass, 11 to 32, to the A35. How many yards is that? 12 yards, correct. So it's now a first down, because we've gained past 10 yards. So it's now play 4, 1st and 10 at the A35. Any questions on that? This is your basic play-by-play. If it's an incomplete pass, let's say, pass 11, just put inc. Okay? If you want to put intended receiver, that's up to you. You can note that in parentheses there. Okay? Again, these are supplemental stats that you can take later on. Okay? So now we go to the stat rushing sheet. Okay? You'll notice that it's separated into 2 sections here. On the left-hand side is the team rushing area. So this area here is team rushing. It's cumulative, so that you'll always keep a running total. On the right here is the individual rushers, and then 1, 2, 3 represents the times that they rush the ball. So as you can see here, I have spaces for 6 individual rushers with 20 yards, up to 20 rushes. And then on the bottom here, I have, like, you know, those scrubs that carry the ball one time. Instead of wasting a nice column of 20 rushes, I just put those people on the bottom. Okay, like those, you know, those hand it off to the wide receiver who rarely touches the ball. You just put them on the bottom like that. But the main guys, you put them up there on the top because there's a possibility they might rush the ball a lot. Okay. So now we apply the 4 plays that we had in the previous situation. We'll apply that here, and how we transfer from the play-by-play to the stat sheet. So again, going back, Alika rushes for -2 yards. So Alika gets -2 yards, and then update the team, -2 yards. Okay? So you will always see that the total number of net yards here will always equal the total number of yards here. Okay? Example number 2, Adam rushes for 5 yards. You give Adam 5 yards. You update the team total. It's now 2 rushes for 3 yards. Okay? Third example, Alan rushes for 12 yards. 12 yards here. Update the team total, 12 yards. Okay. Any questions on that? Now we have another play. Adam rushes for 6 yards and a touchdown. Okay. So I update Adam. I put 6 more yards there. I put a little star there indicating that they scored a touchdown. And then I would also update the team touchdowns. Because you will always see in a television broadcast, you know, Adams has 2 rushes, 11 yards, and a touchdown. So that's what you'll see normally on the graphics on the lower third, and that's what you will see in the TV. So you want to make sure that, let's say if you're doing radio or statting for radio, and the play-by-play announcer looks over your stat sheet, they'll see right here that Adams has 2 rushes for 11 yards and a touchdown. Because I've asked, whoa, why can't we just put the total yards on each play? Well, you can, but it's just that if somebody looks over your shoulder and say, how many yards does Adam have rushing? You couldn't tell. So that's why it's always important to update it cumulative as the game goes along. Any questions on that? Okay, stat sheet. On the right-hand side, you'll see passing. You see there's a whole bunch of lines, whole bunch of markers and things like that. So what we want to do is we want to arrange the columns based on what do you normally see at a television broadcast. So here's back in 1990, Hawaii versus BYU, Garrett Gabriel and stuff like that. It's done by completions, attempts, yards, touchdowns, and interceptions. So you want to do it in the same consistency as how it's done in television. The only thing that's different that you see sometimes in TV is that interceptions and touchdowns are sometimes flip-flop. For example, here's an ESPN broadcast. You can see Colt Brennan here. This is his completions, attempts, and yards, touchdowns, and interceptions. So basically what we want to do is we want to mimic what you see on the television broadcast on your stat sheet. So basically, the first column is passes completed. The second column is passes attempted. And you can see the numbers go from 1 to whatever on the bottom. That's the total number of attempts. The big box there is the total yards passing. The fourth column is touchdowns. The fifth column is interceptions. Your stat sheet will also have quarterback number 2, as well as quarterback number 3, and even quarterback number 4, in case if you have backup quarterbacks that come in. Because sometimes you might have 2 quarterback systems and things like that. So it's always important to prepare yourselves before the game begins so that you know who's your starting quarterback, who's your backup, and things like that. So in case if you need to pre-write your items on the stat sheet as well. You'll notice on the bottom right corner, if there's an interception, this applies to the opponent's interception, meaning that if your quarterback throws an interception, the opponent's portion here goes on here. So let's say if number 10 throws an interception to number 12 on the opposite side, you write number 12 here and the total number of return yards on the interception. Okay. Okay, so let's apply some play-by-play to this section here now. Okay, so on the first play, number 5, Adam, passes complete to number 44, Abraham, for 6 yards. So it's 1 completion for 1, 6-yard gain. Okay? Okay? And that's all you need to do for the passing section. Now you still need to update the receiving section, but for the passing section only, it's 1 for 1, 6 yards. Okay? Number 5, Adam passes incomplete, intended for number 32, Alika. So basically on that play, because it's an incompletion, it is same, 1 completion for 2, and blank. You can actually put a dash mark there so that you don't have to write over it, but you now know that Adam is 1 for 2, 6 yards on his cumulative total. Adam passes complete to Allen for 67 yards and a touchdown. So now you're going to put 2 for 3, add 67 yards to 6, you get 73 yards, and now you have a touchdown, so now you put a 1 in the touchdown column. Okay? Allen's pass is intercepted by number 29 on the opponent at the B14 and returns to the B39. So, how many interception return yards is that? 25, right. So, Allen, who is the backup, so you put him here. It's not Adam, it's Allen. So he is 0 for 1. 0 completions, 1 attempt, but it's an interception. So you put it in the interception column here. Also, because it's an interception, on the bottom right-hand corner here, you have number 29 here, who intercepted the ball and returned it 25 yards. Okay? Any questions on that? Again, it's very important to have a play-by-play sheet, because then if you're all caught up and let's say the next drive is underway, at least you have the information on the play-by-play sheet, and then you can transfer it onto this stat sheet here. Okay? So as you know, if we have a pass and a reception, we always have to update the receiving section. So as you can see here, on the bottom right-hand corner below the passing are your receivers. And as you can see here, I have 12 receivers, because back nowadays, you have like so much passing, you have like tons of receivers out there. So over the years, I've had to increase it to 12 receivers, up to 12 receptions each. See? Okay. So now, the number is the name that's at the top, the number of receptions, and a number of individual receiving yards. Okay. So we go to the play-by-play. Adam passes complete to Abraham for 6 yards. So we update the quarterback passing, 6 yards, and then for Abraham, we put 6 yards. Okay? So all of the receivers here, total up, should equal the quarterback's total passing yards from all the quarterbacks, not just one. If there's 2 quarterbacks, they all have to add up so that they're the same number. Adams passes incomplete, intended for Alika. Okay? Do we need to update do we need to update this? No, because there has been no completion by, so we don't need to update that. Only the passing, yes. So next play, Adam passes complete to Allen for 67 yards and a touchdown. So on the quarterback side, it's one additional completion, 67 yards, and we note the touchdown on the passing. We do the same thing here by putting 67 yards and a touchdown. Okay. Now, in advanced stats, like I do, somebody might ask you, the play-by-play person, say, hey, you know, there's been a lot of incompletions. Who has the quarterback been throwing to a lot? You could say, well, they've thrown a lot of incompletions intended for Allen. So how do you stat for that? So what I would do is that if there's an incompletion, I would put a little circle around the intended receiver. In this case, if there was an incompletion for, let's say, Allen, I would put a little circle over this 1, and that indicates that a pass was intended for Allen but was incomplete. So you can tell that if I have a circle over the 1 here, that will tell me that he's caught 1 for 67 yards, but he's been thrown to twice, because there was a completion for 67 and an incompletion thrown to him. So again, these are some of the other stats that you might want to just try and keep. Okay. Third play, Allen passes intercepted to number 29, returns at 25 yards. Do we need to update the completion here? No, because it was the opponent's side. Okay. You update the passing as we've told you earlier, but you don't have to do the completions. Okay. All right. I know I'm going really fast, so if there's any questions, let me know. Now there's another section, lower left corner. This talks about penalties, kickoff returns, fumbles, punts, punt returns, and field goals. Okay. These are all cumulative totals that you continue to update as the game goes along. So penalties, top left corner. Again, any penalties against this team, because you're going to have two sheets, one for Team A, one for Team B. If there's a penalty against Team A, you can indicate the total number of yards enforced on the play. Now you notice there on the bottom here, I have some codes that I put on there. If there is a false start, let's say for example, I just put a little tick mark that says false start, because who knows, it may be during the game that Team A has had 5 penalties based on false starts. That's something you might want to feed to your play-by-play announcer, because that's something, because what I like to do as a statistician is that if I'm feeding information to the play-by-play announcer or to somebody else, I'm basically saying a trend or a story. And that's what kind of like news broadcasters, they're trying to tell you a story from a broadcast standpoint. What we're trying to do as statisticians is we're telling you, the play-by-play announcer or whoever else, that this thing is starting to trend. So we want to tell you that these are some of the stories that are happening from a stats perspective. Kickoff returns. This is Team A's kickoff returns. You update that. I put the primary kickoff return person here on the left-hand corner. You can see here I have like up to 11 kickoff returns. Then I have number 2 kickoff return, number 3 kickoff returns, and then we have those person who just grabs the ball on the onside. That's actually a kickoff return. Punts. This is the total number of punts by number 48 Smith. You can see here the first column is the punt yardage. The second column is the cumulative. And then if you need to calculate the average, that's the third column here for punts. If there is a punt return, in this case, you notice I have it in a different color here. This is the opponent, number 6. If, let's say on this punt we have 48-yard punt, the return is 10 yards. I put that there so that for every punt, if there is a punt return, I put that over there. Because it's easier to do it this way versus having Team A's punt here and then Team B's punt return. You have to grab another sheet to do Team B's punt return. It's easier to put it all on one sheet for this one particular play. If there is a field goal, you can see here I have a spot for the field goal player, the yards on the field goal, and whether it's good, no good, whatever information that you want to put there. If there is a fumble, the first column represents the total number of fumbles on the play. The second column represents if the fumble was lost, meaning that the opponent recovers the fumble. Any questions on that? And
what happens if it gets blocked? So it gets blocked and then it gets returned for a touchdown.
okay.
Somewhere you write that on the...
Yes. So, based on the stats, and I'll give you at the end, all of these stats are based off of the NCAA football stats manual. And basically what that is that it's basically telling you, okay, for certain situations, this is how you would do it from a statistical standpoint. So we use the NCAA stats manual as sort of like the Bible for all the guidelines for that. So to specifically address your question, if there is a block on a play, the yardage does not go to the punter. Because think about it, if the punter punts the ball 50 yards, great punt, and then the second punt is blocked, is it really the punter's fault for if the punt gets blocked? Not necessarily. Also, if you're looking at the stats and he averages 2 punts, one is 50 yards and one is 0 yards, it's not really a true representation of the punter's stats. So basically, all blocked punts are considered 0 yards but credited to the team. So you're going to create another column down here, team, and then you could put BK, because all team block punts are 0 yards, technically. But you can put block on the bottom here and indicate that it was a block punt. So individual punts are the yardage for the punter who actually punts the ball for yards. Yes, Paul.
Kickoff returns, when they come out of the end zone, we add the end zone yardage too. Do we have to?
That's okay. So that's a good point. Only for the pros. In the pros, when they spot the ball, if the receiver catches the ball 2 yards deep, in the pros, it's from the -2 to wherever yards that they come out. In college and in high school, even if the ball is kicked into the end zone, you always start from the goal line, 0 yard line. See? In high school, just as an FYI, if the ball is kicked into the end zone, even though it's caught by the receiving team, the play is supposed to be immediately ruled dead as a touchback. But in college, if it's caught in the end zone, you have the option of running it back. But you always start from the 0 yard line. So you can never have 101 touchdown return yards on the play. Maximum is always, in high school and college, is 100 yards on the return. Actually, in high school, it's never 100. It's 99 because you have to cut. Because once it hits from the 0, it's a touchback. So it's always from the 1 yard line. Okay. Good questions, though. Very good questions.
One more question.
Yes.
Block, but it still goes for like positive yards. Is it still?
Like a partially block.
Yeah.
Okay. The philosophy that the NCAA uses is something that we agree with. If it's not the punter, because the punting stats should be if let's say a pro scout says like, okay, how good is this punter? He averages like 50 yards and stuff like that. If the ball is partially blocked, and let's say it only goes like 10 yards, you still credit the team for 10 yards. Because as we mentioned, generally speaking, a block punt should be always credited to the team. So that's why it could be 0, it could be partially blocked 10 yards. So you would put it as a team punt of X amount of yards. Okay. Good questions. Now later on,
Any discretion though? What if the punter just takes a long time all the time?
well, but it's always it's a team game. So if granted, let's say that the punter takes 12 seconds to punt the ball, you could make the case against the punter, but then again, you could make the case against the line. Maybe the line knows that the punter takes a long time to so it's shared responsibility for that. Now, let's say the punter punts it and it goes off the side of his foot. Okay, that's the punter's fault. You credit the punter with 5 yards or 10 yards off the punt. So again, the punter's numbers are based off of a regular punt by the punter. Okay? All very good questions. Let's take a quick break. If there's anybody needs to go to the restroom or refuel, that's the basics of play-by-play and the stat sheets. Let's reset for about a couple minutes, and then we can continue taking more stats. Okay. All right. Welcome back. Now that everybody has had the introduction to taking stats, both play-by-play as well as the stat sheet, now we're going to put your skills to work. And right now what we're going to do is we're going to practice taking stats. We're going to show you live game film. And basically your job is to take your observations and put them on paper. So what we're going to do is we're going to ask you to take play-by-play, identify the player's number, try and spot the ball, determine the down and distance, how many yards did you give on the play, and things like that, and how to fill out that stat sheet. Yes, go ahead, Bob.
I noticed we're only following the offense. We're not taking anything at all defensive-wise.
Well, that's a good point. That's a good point. Practice defense as well. But work on the offense first, and then afterwards, if you're proficient enough, we can run this play again, and we can capture defense as well. But then I'm more than happy to answer defensive questions anytime. But ironically, I do have the defensive play on this as well. So, but again, the main areas in order. Identify the number, try and spot the ball, determine the down and distance, how many yards do you give on each play, okay? Okay, so let's do the situation here. We're in the fourth quarter, we're at a minute 53. You have Iolani against Lahaina Luna. Iolani is wearing black, Lahaina Luna is wearing white. We are about ready to resume the game with 1:53. We'll begin with a kickoff following a score. Iolani is in black, kicking to Lahaina Luna. Okay, so again, identify the players on the play. Okay, so here's the play. Realize it's a little small, but they will zoom in here as we get closer. And I will play this again. All right, so let's play it again. All right, now let's get your answers here. Okay, what do we got here? Start from the beginning.
Kickoff
Kickoff by.
at the Iolani 40.
Who kicked it off?
Whatever.
I
No,
didn't
kicker.
do
Okay, no, that's fair. That's fair. Nobody expects you, but identifying the kicker is important. Okay. Next, who did they kick it to?
7.
Number 7. Good. Okay. Do we know what yard line in your best guess?
The
What?
Lahaina 2.
I got
I
him at
said
the
3.
2, 3, 2, 3. Okay. Close. Close.
Sorry, it was outside that 2. That's fine, right? 3.
Okay. Okay. Good. No, these are good. I mean, we can stop the play and stuff like that. Okay. Where did you run it to?
29.
Looks- Okay. Yeah, I mean, that's right now it's hard because what you want to do is at this point wait for the referees to line it up. Normally you can do the initial spot when you see what yard line they're on, but officially mark it where they put the ball down. That's what we know from the earlier example how we spot the ball. Did anybody get a tackle? Just out of curiosity. Okay? But again, these are some of the things, okay? So again, from where we watched, it's okay, who kicked the ball? What yard line did he kick it to? Who returned it? Returned it to what yard line? Who made the tackle? Okay? And now, for the purposes of score, let's say if they score on the drive, we need to know what was the time on the clock. Because if there was a scoring drive, or if we're calculating time of possession, we need to indicate what the drive start says on the clock. Okay, so let's go back one more time. Because the only thing I wanted to go over is that what yard line did they pick it up from?
What number is the kicker?
Kicker is 23. Yeah, so there's no place on the stat sheet for the kicker.
Okay.
2B.
Oh no, yeah, he was outside. He was like at the 4 or 5 yard.
Tackle by.
Wait for the last guy.
One.
Okay, so when it comes to where to spot the ball, where he kicked the ball off, you go to where the kicker, where the predominant part of his body is where he catches the ball. So you can make the case it was the 2 or the 3 yard line based on what we saw here. Officially, in the play-by-play, they indicated that the kicker kicked it to the 2 yard line. So the play-by-play you should have Iolani 23 kicks to Lahaina Luna 7, returns from the 2, to the 30 for 28-yard kickoff return, tackle by 1, and the clock now says 1:46. Okay, so make sure on your play-by-play sheet you should have this information on your sheet. Okay, so we all know that this is a kickoff return. It is not an offensive play. It is a special teams play. So it is not a rush, not a pass, not a penalty or anything like that. So it's part of the kickoff return yards only. Okay?
So Tom, if I may ask,
Sure.
I know the old school thought is this when it comes to those types of things, it's where the receiver's foot touches back to start. Is that still the case?
Yeah, the theory, there was one theory that it's whatever the back foot was at. I don't necessarily subscribe to that, but I would say if the majority of his body was more back, then I would say, yeah, go with the back foot. Okay, but it's not absolute in this case. So that's why, in this case, you saw it was between the 2 and the 3. Clearly, the scorekeeper back foot basically gave him the back foot or the 2-yard line. So that's where that justification came in. Yes, John.
So for the play-by-play,
Yes.
for a kickoff, for the number, do we still write the number of the play?
You wouldn't have a number.
Yeah, the number play is the offense, is the drive. So the drive begins after the special teams play. So when it comes to special teams play, it's not part of the drive. Now, if it's a 4th down, that's on a punt, that's part of the drive. But on a kickoff return, it's not part of the an offensive set. Okay? All right. So we begin with play number 1, 1st and 10, ball on the Lahaina Luna 30-yard line. Okay? We're all set. All right, here's the play. You can see the ball is on the 30-yard line. Uh-oh, we got something here. Okay, so do we all know what this is? Okay, it's the official signal for delay of game. Okay, so part of the learning process is learning what the officials, when they enforce penalties, that we should be aware of not only the signal for penalties, but the expected number of yards on penalties. We'll have a section on penalties a little bit later on, but this is a signal for delay of game. And as you can see, the umpire, which is located right here, he marched it from the 30-yard line to the 25-yard line. So it's a 5-yard penalty. And so we indicate on our play-by-play that it was a delay of game, -5.
Can we assess the quarterback on that? Or
No.
just-
It's although if you listen to the referee Mike, he'll call a number. In this case, he puts it on the quarterback.
Right.
So if you are tracking who the penalty is on, if you can hear the referee Mike, you can put that in parentheses who the penalty was on. Because if you wanted to, if your coach says, "Oh, can you track penalties?" you can indicate that in the play-by-play as well.
Penalties, we don't increment the play. It's still play 1, right?
That's a good point. I'll bring that up in a second here. Okay. So again, on your play-by-play sheet, penalty, delay of game, spot on the 25, 5-yard penalty from the L30 to the L25. Everybody got that? Okay. So what we're doing is repeating first down, because the down hasn't changed. We're repeating first down. So it is still technically play number 1 again. Okay. So again, it's not the second play. So on your next line on your play-by-play, it's still play 1, but it's 1st and 15 on the Lahaina Luna 25-yard line. Okay? All right, so now let's go to the next play. Okay, you can see the referee here. He's grabbing the ball, lines it up on the ground here, but then, they're gonna eventually put the ball. Okay, so let's watch the play again. This was a little easier versus the kickoff. We got a rush. Okay, did we pick up the tacklers? One more time. Let's just, I know you all were focusing on the offensive player, but then this is why you have a spotter next to you in case if you're tracking defensive stats. Okay, so your stat sheet should read rush 7, spot on the Iolani 48. So from the 25 on the Lahaina Luna side over the 50-yard line to the Iolani 48, which is 27 yards. In this case, the tackle was made by 92 and 22. And you also credit a first down rush. So when you do your stat sheet, don't forget, that's a first down by rush. Okay? Okay? You don't need to put that on your play-by-play sheet, but when you transfer over to your stat sheet, because the first down was gained, it's a first down rush. So again, rush 9, spot Iolani 48, 27 yards, tackle 92-22, first down rush. Okay? Okay, we're now at play number 2. First and 10, ball on the Iolani 48. Okay, so as you can see, the ball is in between, even though it's really close to the 49.
Spotted it at the 49 now, right?
Yeah, but if you look at it, because if you look at the down marker in the first 10, it looks like 49. But if you look actually where the ball is, it's not really touching the 49. It's really between the 49 and 48. So that's why you have to kind of really be sure on where the ball is. Now, if at your high school game, if you say the ball is the 49, that's fine. But I tell you, at the UH level, they'll get the binoculars out there. They'll look, and they'll say, ball's on the 48. So just know that officially, this is the ball is on the 48-yard line.
Looks like his foot is on the 49.
See? Because if you look at it real close, the ball is really on the 48. But if you look at the yardsticks, it sure looks like the ball, especially at the end, at the very, very end here, this slide here, it looks like it just needs to touch the 39 to be a first down. But just know that the yardsticks may not exactly be 10 yards. It could be 9 3/4 yards. But go to where the ball is spotted. Okay? All right. First and 10. Okay. Did everybody get the spot? Okay, let's watch the play again. See how the center moved the ball up just like a half a foot so that the ball's on the 48 now. All right.
Depending on the spot, it's either 32 or 31. Right?
True, that is true. So the play-by-play should read rush 32, spot is on the Iolani 32. So from the 48 to the 32 results in 16 yards. In this case, there was just one tackler on the play, even though it looked like two tacklers, but really 92 was the primary guy that made the tackle. Okay. And you also credit a first down rush again. Okay. So you always keep that in mind. Okay. Any questions on 2 plays so far? All right. Next play. You can see the ball where it's spotted, it is on the 32-yard line. So we're good. The ball's on the 32. Okay, next play. So we had something screwy on this play.
Fumble?
Let's take a look.
Yeah, fumble. So rush forward.
All right, do we need to see a play again or? Okay, so here's the result, okay? We had a rush by number 4. There was a fumble on the play, and it was an own recovery, meaning that on the stat sheet, there was fumbles and then fumbles lost. So since we had a fumble, you just circle on the stat sheet, just on the left column only, because he wasn't lost, okay? The spot now is at the 34. So we go from the Iolani 32 to the Iolani 34, minus 2 yards, and then we had a tackle of 21 and 7 on the play. Okay? Okay, so minus 2 on the play. So now the result is play number 4, 2nd and 12 on the Iolani 34. Okay, we're all good? Okay. Keep in mind, like 25 seconds in between plays, so.
On this play-by-play,
Yes.
put like R4F. Would that work?
I would put thumb. I would put fumble.
Fumble.
Thumb, F-U-M,
And then minus 2 yards.
minus 2. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And then if it's a fumble loss, I put F-L, fumble loss. Okay, 2nd and 12, Iolani 34. Okay.
Pass for. Intended for 25. Oh.
Okay, let's watch the play again.
And you can't advance yet high school.
Once your knee hits the ground, it's over.
At the 18.
It's hard to tell on this play where he intercepted the ball, but again, this is a play where you watch the official who's lining up the play. So watch this official right here. Right here.
Oh, yeah.
Right here, right here, right here, right here. So right here's the yard marker right here. So here's your play-by-play. It'll show pass by Lahaina Luna 4, interception. We're spotting at the Iolani 19, intercepted by Iolani number 19. Return yards of 0 yards. There were no tackle on the play because his knee hit the ground. The play is over, and you record the clock because it's a new possession for Iolani. Okay? So again, pass, intercepted. Iolani 19 by 19, return yard 0, no tackle on the play. Okay? Okay, so this is how my play-by-play sheet would look like. Now, this doesn't have the defensive plays on it, but if you want to put the defensive plays, you could always put the defensive plays on there. Okay? So we start at the Lahaina Luna at 153, kickoff by number 23, return by 7, from the 2 to the 30, 28 yards, clock says 146. There's a scoring drive. The scoring drive will start from 146 on the clock. Okay? Not 153, 146, because technically on this kickoff, it's still Lahaina Luna's, no, it's still Iolani's ball, because Iolani kicks it It's their time of possession. So when Lahaina Luna gets the ball, their time of possession begins at 1:46 when they receive the kickoff. Okay? 1st and 10, L30, penalty, delay, 5 yards. You can put the quarterback's number if you want. First play, 1st and 15, L25, rush by 7, goes to the I-48, plus 27 yards. Becomes play 2, 1st and 10 at the 48, rush by 32, goes from the I-48 to the 32, 16 yards. Play 3, 1st and 10 at the I-32, rush by 4, fumbles, minus 2 yards to the I-34. Play 4, 2nd and 12, I-34, pass by 4, intercepted by 19 from the I-19 to the I-19, 0 yards, 21 seconds. Iolani ball at 21 seconds, 1st and 10 at the Iolani 19-yard line. All right. Lots to digest. But again, this is why having a spotter along with the person who takes play-by-play is very, very important. Now, if you're up,
recommend skipping the line like that, leaving that black in between.
I like to skip a line just because I can then look at drives, different drives of the game. And that's why I usually have, if you want it, you can always email me because my sheets are legal size. The play-by-play that I have for you today is letter size, but I like legal size because I can generally fit 1/4 on one legal size page. So that's the average amount of plays you have in a game. A little bit more in college, but generally in a high school game, 1 page per quarter is what I usually use. Okay, we're at a second break now. It's up to you if you want to take the break now or not. Show of hands, do we want any break? Okay, no, we'll continue forward. Okay. So what we'll do now is we'll go over different rushing plays and situations that happen during the game. In other words, some of the weirder plays, because which we showed you basically is straightforward. There are some quirks here and there, but now I'm going to go over some of the weirder plays that can happen during a game. Okay? So, generally speaking, any player who carries the ball, plus or minus, that's where that person gets credited to. So, from the 32 to the 49, we know 17 yards. From the B49 to the A41, this is A now, 18. Carries it backwards from the B49 to the A41, minus 10 yards. Okay, so just always know that we're always going from the A side to the B side on these plays. If a quarterback drops back to pass and is sacked, is it a rushing or passing play? The number of yards lost on the play. Okay, it's a rushing play. Okay, because keep in mind, if it's a passing play and he gets sacked, that's the passing yards does not truly represent. If we counted it minus passing yards, it does not truly represent the amount of yards the quarterback passed. So if he's sacked for a loss of yards, it is considered a rushing play. Yes.
In terms of stats, that's not charged to the quarterback, right? It's charged to the team.
It is actually charged to the quarterback. It is. But you notice on your stat sheet.
Fantasy football, like,
Well, but here's the thing.
Whatever they get for minus sacks is against their passing yards.
Well, yes, in the pros. In the pros, there is a category called net passing yards.
Okay.
So in the pros, it's passing yards, and then you have another stat called net passing yards. That's the passing yards minus the number of sack yardage. So yes, in the pros, it's slightly different, and that shows you. But in the colleges and high school, sack yardage is listed as part of the quarterback's rushing yards and things like that. So you'll notice on the stat sheet, I have a little column called sacks.
Yeah.
That shows you, and so what I do is I also note the number of sacks yardage loss. Because if you look at the quarterback, he might have had 6 rushing attempts, but if you look at the sack yardage, he might have had 5 sacks. So when you look at 6 rushing attempts and you notice that are 5 sacks, that tells you that the quarterback really only had 1 legitimate rush, and 5 5 of the others were sacks. So that sort of gives you a better understanding of what the quarterback really did in the game. And so that, now keep in mind, those sack yards are still part of the total net rushing yards in that game. Okay, so just to re-emphasize the point, if a pass attempt by Adam, he's sacked from the A32 to the 27, it is a minus 5-yard rush. But let's say Adam on a passing play takes off and runs from the A27 to the 49, that is a 22-yard rush. See, so that's the justification. If the quarterback, if he's sacked, it's a minus rush. But let's say if on a passing play he takes off and runs, it's also a rush. So that's why we have to give fairly given it that it's both a rushing, both sacked, as well as a quarterback taking off on a passing play. It's a rush on a positive play. Okay. Now, here's the most, I wouldn't say tricky, but things that you also keep in mind. If it's a run option play involving a pitch to the tailback, okay, you're going to credit the tailback with the rush. Even though the quarterback has the ball most of the time and he pitches it to the tailback, you don't give the quarterback any rushing yards on the play. It all goes to the tailback. Okay? The player who pitches is not credited with a rush, attempt, or yardage. Okay? That's just one of the statistical rules that they do. So here's an example to see here. The quarterback starts from the 12-yard line, fakes the handoff, pitches to the tailback, he advances it to about the 10 or the 9-yard line. So in this case, the 11-yard line. So in this case, the quarterback does not get a rush. It goes strictly to the tailback.
So even if the quarterback gains like 10, 12 yards and then pitches, still he gets nothing.
That's correct. That's correct. Because that's all. The intent of the run option play is it's a play with two people, and as long as the tailback is still in position to receive a pitch, it's still credited to the tailback no matter what. Okay. Now, well, later on we'll talk about laterals. Laterals is a little different from run option, and I'll show you an example of that. Okay. So on plays that do not involve run option but contain laterals, then you credit all of the people that touch the ball. But keep in mind, only one rushing attempt can be credited on the play. Okay? And that's the first person that touches the ball. Okay? Everybody else is credited with yards, plus or minus, but it's like 0 rushes for X amount of yards that they contributed on the play. So, for example, from the 50-yard line, Adam advances to Team B's 30-yard line, where he laterals backwards to Alika, who then catches the ball at the 32-yard line. Then Alika advances to the 25-yard line, is then a down. So how many yards and who gets the rushing attempt? So it has some tricky elements here.
So Adam, right, gets the rushing attempt.
Correct, he gets the rush. So now the question is, how many yards does he go? So he advances it to the 30, laterals it to Alika, who catches it on the 32-yard line. Then he advances it to the 25. So the real question is, does Adam advance it to the 30 or do he advance it to the 32? That's the tricky question. Okay. What do you guys think?
30.
To the 30 or to the 32?
Alika just gets extra 5 yards.
What do you guys think? Okay, so what does everybody think? Does he get 20 yards or does he get 18 yards? So how many of you say 20 yards? How many of you say 18 yards? Obviously the rest don't know. Well, we have to think backwards for this play. So if we think backwards, how many yards does Alika get? He goes from, he ends it up on the 25, but where does he catch it? 32. So he gets 7 yards. So that means Adam gets 18. 18. So think of it that way. Think of it from a backwards perspective. So start from the end and say Alika gets 7, Adam gets 18. Okay? Okay? So if you think of it that way, it's a little bit fairer.
So you're working from the end play backwards, you're saying?
Yes. Because if you think of it from the forward perspective, if Adam goes to the 30 and Alika, then you're going to give Alika from the 30 to the 25. He didn't really go 5 yards. He really went 7. Yeah? So that's kind of the strange parts if you work from a forward perspective. So it's easier to work from the backwards perspective. Okay? So now, quiz number 1. Is this a run option or a lateral? Okay? And don't be afraid. We can, this can be debatable.
That's run option. Because it was a design, he maintained Charles' position the entire time.
Okay, how many say run option? How many say lateral? Okay. So as we saw here, the pitch man, or in this case the tailback, stayed in his same position, because if the pitch man was forward, that would be a legal forward pass. So he stayed even or behind the quarterback. As long as he maintains that position on the field, it is considered a run option. So in this case, from a stat perspective, it is a tailback, gets all the yards on this play. Okay? It gets trickier. Here's number 2. Now this is so weird that this is actually in a Super NES or one of those cartoon basically. Okay, so now it's a little bit trickier. Is this a run option or is it a lateral? Interesting.
He's maintained the same position.
See? That's going to be some things that you might be encountered because as a statistician, you have ultimately, based off of the football stats manual, backup in terms of your judgment in terms of is this a run option or is it a lateral? So before we make the final decision, let's one more time. Watch the pitch man. Okay, how many of you say run option? How many of you say lateral? Technically, this is a run option. Although you could make the case that it could be a lateral, but if we use the definition of the quarterback pitchman relationship down the field, it satisfies the definition. No matter how crazy it looked, it is technically a run option.
Then you also have to take into consideration your perspective and your peripheral vision of where you're sitting in the
Absolutely.
Because from this angle, yes, it's obvious. But if you're at a
Sideline.
it may look like they're together, right? Just
Right.
depending if you're on the 50s.
Right. And in fact, if you were watching it from the sideline, you might not even see the pitch man. You're only seeing the quarterback. And then all of a sudden, boom, pitches it to the tailback. You're going to say like, "Oh, where did that come from?" That had to be a lateral. Okay? So that's why it's very important to watch the whole play, because at the same time, some of you, your spotter might also be looking for who's the defensive player. So you kind of have to watch the whole play as the play develops. So yes, it's very tricky, but again, the more games you watch, and from a stat perspective, you're not watching as a fan. You're watching as a statistician. So you have a different mindset as you're watching games. So again, watching the whole play, you'll notice that the pitchman is still there. The quarterback pitchman relationship is still there, and by definition, that is still a run option. Yeah, that's why it's a video game. So bizarre.
That guy's not going to stay there the whole time.
Oh, there's no question. In fact, the pitchman might be running ahead to block down the field. But, only like in a fantasy football game would something like that happen. However, I have seen plays where the quarterback does go about maybe 10, 12 yards. And then and continues to pitch it, but very, very rarely. Very, very rarely. Maybe,
Outside, right?
yeah.
Not like up to middle.
No. It's always a run towards the sideline because that's kind of how most option plays goes.
Still establish the pitch.
And that happens a lot on like, especially like wishbone option, those kind of plays where they use old style that trying to continues to maintain that relationship. So you don't see that anymore, but the fact that it's there, it does happen.
I was at the academy when D. Dallas was there.
D. Dowis, wow,
Yeah.
fantastic. He's so disciplined as a quarterback, yes. Okay, now, you want to see something absolutely crazy, but it's something worth watching that I'm going to even turn on the volume. Last play of the game.
What yard line were they at? Like a
Where's
22
your
yard line?
play-by-play, by the way? I want to see your play.
Yeah, see, that's,
32 yard.
I would love to see the play-by-play for that.
That was a 68-yard pass.
That is correct, a 68-yard pass. Well, let's see, we're here. 50, 40, 30, like 35-yard line maybe? 65?
Ball on the 32.
The 32, okay.
Yeah.
So the way to stat this is all you need to do is the player number and the best guess in terms of what yard line. So you could say like 7 from the 48, 25 from the 45, such and such from the 42. And as long as you have somebody keep writing notes in terms of, because I tell you what, you know when you watch the Pro Bowl and they have these weird lateral plays, we have to keep track of this. So as long as you have somebody continue to mention like 17 from the 40, 32 from the 10, you just have to stay on top of it. You cannot, in your mind as a statistician, you cannot become a fan. You have to just concentrate on who has the ball, what's the yard line. Who has the ball, what's the yard. Who has the ball, what's on the yard line. Now, I'm sure they must have gone to a videotape to record this. But statistically, you have to have all of the people who touch the ball, what yard line, and where it is. So, well, yeah. Well, it's a pass. It's 1 for 1, 68 yards. But then you have 1 reception for blank yards, and then the next person 0 reception for blank yard, 0 blank, 0 blank, and then the last person gets 0 receptions for like maybe 10 yards or 12 yards and a touchdown. And a touchdown.
So all the laterals count as receiving X, not rushing?
Yes, because it's a part of the pass play. So,
So whatever the first play was, that's the type of yardage. The rest of
So I guess I remember the Boise State game, right? Was a good example when they beat Oklahoma. So
Oh,
that
yeah.
one, when the guy threw it and lateral and he ran the rest of the score.
correct.
So that the guy that ran it, it's all pass play. I mean,
So yeah, so remember we work backwards. So the guy that caught the lateral gets the 0 receptions for how many yards from the point that he caught the ball for a touchdown. The first guy who caught the ball gets the reception to wherever the second guy picked up the ball. He gets 1 reception for that amount of yards.
say 20 yards.
Yeah, and then the other guy gets 0 reception for the remaining yards and a touchdown. And so the total number of yards in that equals the total yards of the entire pass play.
Yeah.
1 for 1, black, and touchdown. Also, just note that on 2-point conversion, I think Boise State had a 2-point conversion, I think, on a different game. That 2-point conversions do not count as part of the stats. Do not count. It's not a touchdown, it's not 2 yards and things like that. It's not a rushing or whatever. So don't worry about 2-point conversions on stuff like that. Crazy. All right. Okay, now we go to fumbles. Okay, we had a fumble earlier. So if in your opinion, an errant pitch or fumble that it's intended for the receiver or running back is an opportunity to advance that results in no gain or loss on a play, charge the original ball handler with the rush or the attempt. So basically, if I'm the quarterback and I'm going to pitch it, let's say, the pitch goes wrong, errant, behind the guy, in front of the guy, whatever yards ended up being on the play, you charge to the original guy, because that's the guy who is ultimately responsible for the total yards in the play. Okay? If it's a good pitch, the guy catches it and then fumbles, then you charge the guy who catches the ball with it. Okay?
Because it could be a good pitch. He just never caught the ball, right?
Right. But so you want to give the benefit of the doubt to the receiver. Okay. It has to be caught by the receiver.
Or it has to be caught.
Yeah. Okay. Even if it's a good ball, but he never really got it,
Yeah.
you want to give it to the quarterback. You got to make sure even though ultimately, team-wise, it's the pitchman's fault. I mean the receiver's fault. But yeah, from a stat standpoint, everything rests on the quarterback, the first person who holds it. Ultimately, they're responsible. Team A's ball in the 30. Adam pitches to Alika. In your opinion, is errant, and Alika is down on the 32. You want to charge Adam, the quarterback, with a rush of -2 yards. Okay, let's watch this in an actual situation. Pitches it behind the guy. And then we have a recovery by the receiving team. Okay, so let's watch it one more time. Okay, so how do we stat this play? Okay.
The rush would go to where.
Okay, so the ball goes.
Covered, right?
So the ball's on the 25. Ball's fumbled. It's picked up at the 22-yard line and goes to the 15-yard line. Okay, so since the play was turned over at the 22-yard line, the quarterback gets the -3 yards. Okay, the guy who recovered the ball
14
advanced it from the 22-yard line to the 15-yard line, so it's a fumble return of 7 yards. Okay, so the fumble return is not a rush, it's not a pass, and it's actually a defensive play. So from a stat perspective, the defensive player who gets the ball gets a fumble recovery and a fumble return for 7 yards. Okay, any questions on that? Let's take a look at that play one more time, see if we missed anything on this play.
Well, there was a thing, looked like he touched the ball at the 23, right? Before actually picking it up.
Well, but he controlled the ball on the 22.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, because you can have fumble, but until somebody actually controls the ball, then we'll.
Okay.
Now you notice there was no defensive play, so nobody from Team A. I think he fell on the ball, if I'm not mistaken. I think.
Oh, you mean crediting a tackle?
Yeah. See, so Team A, the offense, could also get a defensive play on this if they made the tackle. So again, we have to stop being fans. We have to. Oh no, there was a tackle. Whatever, the guy that's on the ground here. Number 4, the quarterback.
4.
So number 4 technically gets a solo tackle on this play. So if you're doing computer stats in the HHSAA, all of this has to all be recorded. So again, your spotter God bless their soul, needs to be on top of this. Fumble. Where is the ball picked up? Where did they advance it to? Where did the play end? Who made the tackle on the play? Okay, so stay on it. Keep an eye. Keep watching the play all the way until the very end. Okay, so a lot of things can and will happen in these crazy football games. Okay, same thing. Passing. Quarterback, receiver gets the same amount of yards. Just keep in mind now, if we have these weird plays like a shovel play, that's considered a forward pass. It looks like a run, but it's really a forward pass. Take a look at this play here. Shovel pass. Now, especially teams like Iolani, they'll have a play where there is a wingman going across, quarterback gets the ball, tosses it up in the air, the guy who is in motion goes across, catches the ball, and goes. That is considered a forward pass. So again, just repeating the play. Quarterback gets the ball, throws it slightly up in the air, the guy who's in motion catches the ball, goes across, and runs the ball forward. That is a forward pass. All right? Okay. Now, if we have a backward pitch, that's not a pass. That's a rushing play. But any kind of ball that's either projected forward or thrown up, that is considered a forward pass. Okay? Question, yes?
So if you have a backwards lateral that turns into a throw, how do you score that?
Right. So, because it's a backward or handoff or pitch and stuff like that, that's still part of the play. If the play ends without a throw, it's a rush. But if the guy who gets the pitch then throws the ball, then the play is a pass. Yes. And the quarterback has nothing to do with the play. It's whoever gets the ball and what they choose. Whether if they run with it, let's say they go back for pass and then they run, it's running play. If it goes back and gets the pitch and throws it, it's a passing play. Okay. If there are any laterals beyond the line of scrimmage, credit all players with guidelines. Okay, I think we've seen this play before. Passes to the 30, advances to the 26, laterals to Allen, catches the ball at the 28. Okay, so this is similar to what we've had before, but let's just recap this again. So let's work this backwards. Okay, Allen, who catches the ball at the 28, scores a touchdown. So we know, based on our earlier example, that Allen, who is the second receiver, gets 28 yards, right? So, Alika, who is the first receiver, gets the ball from the 50, laterals it to the 28. So how many yards Alika gets? 22. Okay, so we know that Adams gets 1 for 1, 50 yards. Alika gets 1 reception for 22 yards. Allen gets no receptions for 28 yards. Okay? All right, let's take a look at hook and lateral play. Similar to that Boise, kind of sounded like a Boise State kind of play. So let's stat this game here. Ball's on the 46. Catches the ball at the 35, close enough. Okay. So from the 46 to the 35, 11 yards, and then from the 35 to the touchdown. Yeah. Okay, so everybody get that. From the 46 to the 35, so that's 11 yards, and then 35 to the 0, 35 yards. Okay. See? So again, you try not to get caught up in the action. That's the one caveat we'll always say that when you're statting the game. Okay. Next, we go to penalty yards. Penalty yards can range from 0, so you can have 1 penalty for 0, 5 yards, 10 yards, 15 yards. There are things called spot fouls or penalties. So in other words, it's enforced from the spot of the foul, and then there's half the distance to the goal. You might have a case where the ball is spotted at the 1 yard line, 1 yard from a touchdown. You have a defensive penalty, offsides, let's just say. The ball is then moved from the 1 yard line to the half yard line. How many yards do we give on that penalty? 0. 1 penalty for 0 yards. Because the ball has not moved a yard, it's still a penalty, but we have to credit it for 0 yards. Okay? So as I mentioned, there are 3 types of penalties. There's previous spot, spot foul, and dead ball fouls. Okay? Previous spots march from the previous play and marked it from that spot. So basically, when we have a previous spot foul, no stats are recorded. Okay? So let's say there is a rushing play. The play goes for 5 yards or 10 yards. We have a illegal formation on the offense, 5 yard penalty, repeat first down. So basically, we're repeating first down. So it's a previous spot foul. So it goes from the previous spot, 5 yards, 5 yard penalty. Since we're repeating the down, no stats can be recorded on that play. So that 10 yard play is wiped off the board. 1 penalty for 5 yards, repeat the foul. Okay? We have a spot foul. Okay? So officials will march off the penalty from the spot of the foul, either towards the offense or the defense. Could be either way. Okay? If the spot of the foul is enforced from beyond the line of scrimmage, you will credit partial yards on the play and record the penalty yards. So the down is also repeated. So despite the yards, there is no play. Okay? So, situation 1. Team A's ball on the Team B's 40-yard line. Alika rushes for 17 yards to the Team B's 23-yard line. A clipping penalty is called against Team A on the Team B's 31-yard line. Okay? The enforcement spot, in other words, from the penalty, they will enforce it from the 31-yard line, 15 yards from the Team B's 46-yard line. Okay? So I'll let you think about that. Okay? So, from the 40 to the 17, 40 to the 23-yard line. So if there was no penalty, it would be 17 yards. But Team A is charged with a penalty. So the penalty is enforced from the 31-yard line. So we know now that because the ball was spotted from beyond the line of scrimmage, we will give yards to Team A. So how many yards were we going to give Team A on this rushing play? 9, correct. And then we will charge a penalty of 15 yards to the 46-yard line. So, from a stat perspective, we're going to give Alika with a rush of 9, charge Team A with a penalty of 15. Now, since the down is repeated, it'll be 1st and 16 on the play. Now, it's still play 1. And even though we are giving a rushing yards on this play, it's still play 1 because the down hasn't changed on the play. Okay? So is there any questions? Kind of tricky.
So on your stat sheet though, what are you gonna do? Because like that's not a rushing attempt, right?
It is a rushing attempt.
Oh, it will be counted as a rushing attempt.
Correct.
Okay, even though no play was.
Correct.
Alright.
Correct. Because we're giving them 9 yards on the rush,
Yeah.
but the 15-yard penalty makes it a net -6. So we still have to account for everything on display. Okay? All right, situation number 2. Team A on their own 40-yard line rushes for 5 yards to the A45. A chop block penalty is called against Team A on the Team A's 34-yard line. The enforcement spot is from the 34-yard line, and the Team A is penalized 15 yards to Team A's 19-yard line. So this one is the penalty is behind the line of scrimmage, not ahead, behind the line of scrimmage. So the question is, do we give Team A's Adam do we give rushing yards for Adams?
No.
No, because the enforcement spot is not beyond the line of scrimmage. It's actually behind the line of scrimmage. So basically what in this play is Adams is charged with no rush, so no play, but all penalty yards. So in this case, even though the penalty is 15 yards, because the enforcement spot is behind the line of scrimmage, we still have to account for the yards because it's first and 31? Yeah, first and 31 on the play. So all of those yards has to be accounted for some ways. So in this case, it's all penalty yards. So it'll be first and 31, and the penalty is 21 yards on the play. Okay? So let's just watch an actual play and see how we can witness it on this play. So you can see the ball's on the Team B's 45-yard line. Okay, Team B's 45. You can see the flag comes out. So as a statistician, you know that the flag's out. You know you got the player name, number 11. Okay, watch the official over here. Throws the flag here. So we now know that 11 has the ball. You see the flag there. It's going to be a spot foul. And so what you want to do is you want to watch the umpire who's going to get the ball. And he's going to march off the penalty. So well, the ball was started at what? 45-yard line, right? Okay. See? Was it holding? I think it was holding. So you can see the umpire now moving the ball from the 40 to the 50-yard line. Okay. So basically on this play, how we're going to stat the play? 5-yard rush and 10-yard penalty. Okay. So that's how it looks like actually on the field. So when you see that, important to spot what the penalty is and then watch the umpire here on this play march off the yards. Now, question. Let's say, for example, the ball is marched off from the 40, and let's say he marches it off to the 49-yard line. It's not the...
6-yard rush.
No. No, not necessarily. So again, let's throw this wrinkle in. The ball's on the 45-yard line. The flag is thrown at the 40, but let's say the official incorrectly marches it 9 yards to the 49-yard line. Okay? How many yards and what's the penalty yards? Still going to be 5 yards because we do know that the flag was enforced from the 40-yard line. But if the official incorrectly measures off the yards, we give the penalty of 9 yards.
9 yards?
Yes, it's a 9-yard penalty. You'll see very often that the umpire may misspot the ball. Because let's say you will see many times where, especially on grass fields or something like that, the ball is on, statistically, it's on the, let's say the 50-yard line. It's touching it. But let's say he marches it 5 yards to like inside the 45-yard line. So it's not touching the 45. It's a 6-yard pen because the ball is now on the 44-yard line. Okay? So just know that there is a possibility it could be a 6-yard penalty instead of because not all penalties are 5 yards. It's the actual yards enforced off on the mark off. Okay? So just know that is possible out there.
Do the refs use stuff like that to be like how like they check to see how good their umpires are and marching off the yard?
You will see the officials what they do is the umpire here works with the head linesman.
Yeah.
And so they will see on the play, they will see that the head linesman will then march it off along with them and then line it up with where the umpire lines it up. So they will work hand in hand. So it's really that relationship between those two that's going to determine whether or not it really is truly 5 yards or not. But as a stat person, even though you know they screwed it up, you mark it to wherever they spot the ball. And it's much easier on turf fields than it is on grass fields. Believe me, grass fields are a challenge. Okay. I mentioned there were 3 types, and the last type is the dead ball spot. Officials will march off the penalty from where the play ended, and then they will add on penalty yards. Okay? So, in this case, dead ball foul. 1st and 10 at the B40. Adams rushes for 17 yards to the B23. Dead ball penalty is called against Team B. The penalty is enforced from the 23-yard line to between the 11 to the 12-yard line. Why? It's because it's a half the distance to the goal penalty. Okay? So give me the yards, and then give me the what's the penalty yards? So we go from rush from the B14 to the 23, so that's 17 yards. From the 23,
It's now going to be the 11-yard line, so it's a 12-yard penalty.
correct. So 17 yards, 12-yard penalty, 1st and 10 at the B's 11-yard line. Okay? Any questions on that? Okay, next scenario. 2nd and 2 at the Team A's own 10-yard line. Adams rushes to the 35-yard line to the A45. Dead ball personal foul penalty is called against Team A. The enforcement spot is the 45-yard line, and the ball is moved to Team A's 30-yard line. Okay? So what are we going to do here?
Rush for 35 yards and a 1st down. Penalty of 15 yards.
All right. 35 yards and a 1st down by rush because the sticks moved. Because sticks will move backwards. It will not be 1st and 25. It will be 1st and 10 because the sticks did move for a new 1st down, and then a 15-yard penalty. Okay? So it's just 1 1st down by rush. Okay? 1st and 10 of the Team A's 30-yard line. Okay? Okay, punts. Okay? Punts are measured from the line of scrimmage to where the team receives the ball. Okay? If it's untouched, it's the point where the ball is dead. Okay? So 4th down, Team A's ball on the 50, which makes it easy for all of us. Adam punts to Brown from Team B, who receives the ball at the 15 and retreats to the 5-yard line where he's tackled. So what's the punt yards and what's the return?
35-yard punt, minus 10-yard return.
Okay? Very good. 35-yard punt, return of minus 10. Even if the ball is muffed, because it's a loose ball, let's say Team B muffs the ball and the ball goes backwards, that is considered a live ball. It is a live ball. You credit the return man with whoever muffs the ball. Okay? Okay. Now, if the punt is blocked or a bad snap, do not charge the punter, but charge the team with a punt. This is addressing to Brandon's question here. So if the punt is blocked, team is charged with a 0-yard punt. Okay? 4th down, Team A's ball on its 30. In punting situation, the center pass go over Adam's head. Adam recovers the ball and under duress punts. The ball goes out of bounds at the A's 20-yard line. Okay? So is this a punt?
Yes, a team punt for 0 yards.
Center passes go over Adam's head. Adam recovers the ball and then under duress punts. The ball goes out of bounds at the 20-yard line. So it is a
0 yards.
So it is a punt. But it is not a 0-yard. It is not a 0-yard because it's not blocked. It's not blocked. He did punt the ball, but because it went over the punter's head, you don't charge, because he's under duress, you don't charge the punter. You're going to charge Team A with a punt of minus 10 yards. Minus 10 yards. Okay?
Yeah, I was wondering how we're going to account for it, right? It's like they're taking over on the 20, but they didn't advance it.
That's correct. Yeah. So you're going to have situations, other situations where the ball goes over the head of a person, and let's say the punter gets the ball, he's under duress, he's going to run for it. Okay? Let's say he runs, let's see, the ball is at, let me see here, the ball is at the 30-yard line, right? let's say he runs to the 20, minus 10 yards. How do we stat that play?
That's the same, it's the same stat then, right?
Well, it's not a punt.
Oh, it's
So
not a punt.
let's say under duress, the punter, instead of punts, runs for it. Tackles on the 20-yard line.
Team carry minus.
It is a team carry.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, team carry. Okay, now that involves a whole different set of definitions. If, in the statistician, your opinion, if it's a bad snap, or if the quarterback is in shotgun position, the ball goes over the quarterback's head, it is a team play. Okay, if anything bad happens, it's a team play. So let's say the quarterback, ball goes over the head, quarterback has the ball, back down, minus 10 yards. It is a team rush. Okay? Also note, because it was a passing play, it is technically a sack. It is technically a sack because the quarterback was back for a pass. No, I'm sorry. It's not, it's still a rush because you only credit a sack if you know that the quarterback is definitely going back for a pass. If he had no opportunity to be ready for a pass, then it's not a sack. It's just a team rush for a minus yards.
So if the ball goes over the quarterback's head, he picks it up, but still has time to kind of look downfield, run around, and then gets tackled.
Yes. See, so in that play, if the quarterback has the ability, is going to pass, and he gets sacked, yes.
That was, yes,
Yeah.
stat.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Passing.
Yeah.
If the ball goes over the head, they pick it up and then they advance it.
Yes.
They get credit for the carry.
Now this is in your opinion, if there is plus yards, give it to the quarterback. If it's minus yards, it's a team rush. Okay?
Nice to the if only when it's nice to them, then it's all good.
Okay.
Team positive, huh?
Yeah, you don't want to punish a quarterback for something that's not his fault. It's really the center's fault, really. Okay? So same thing with the punter. If the ball goes over the punter's head, he has to eat it. It is a team rush. Now keep in mind, it's also a fumble. It is technically a fumble because the other team has the opportunity to get the ball. But because the quarterback or the punter gets the ball, it is a fumble own recovery. So all of these little things come into play here. Okay, a lot of situations. If there is a defensive return on a block punt, it is treated as a punt return. Okay, so on 4th down, Team A's ball on its 30. Adams' punt is partially blocked and is recovered by Brown on the 50 and returns it to a touchdown. So in other words, the punt goes forward, okay, for 20 yards. So what do we do on this play? Do we charge Adam with a punt?
Team punt for
Okay.
20 yards.
Team punt, right? We all agree, right?
And then
Team punt for how many yards?
20.
20 yards.
And then
Brown?
gets a 50-yard return for touchdown.
Right, so that is correct. So Brown gets a punt return for 50 yards and a touchdown. Now, here's the goofy thing. That's in the ideal situation. He'll get a punt return for 50 yards and a touchdown. But let's say Brown does return it for 50 yards. But let's say it's blocked by a different player. Let's say Baker. Baker blocks it, but the ball advances still to the 50-yard line, where then Brown then takes it and returns it. Who gets the punt return, credited for the punt return? It's actually the person who blocked it. So Baker gets a punt return,
But Brown still gets a touchdown.
but Brown gets 0 punt returns for 50 yards. It's similar to the passing play, whereas anybody on the defensive side that touches the ball on the special teams play is all part of the punt return. So in this case, Baker will get 1 return for 0 yards, and then Brown gets 0 returns for 50 yards and a touchdown. Okay? So on the defensive side, if you're statting defense, Baker gets the punt blocked. And then punt return, both Baker and Brown is charged with the punt return and the punt return yards. Okay? So you just got to keep that in mind So being the punt blocker, you get credited in some ways two times: the punt block on the defensive side and the punt return as part of that whole sequence of plays.
So somebody's still going to be Brown though.
Brown will get because Brown is part of the punt return. On the scoring summary, Brown gets the return for 50-yard punt return. Although statistically he doesn't get credited for the actual punt return, but he's part of the play. Same thing as if you're doing a scoring summary. If like there are 6 people lateraling the ball, the last guy gets credited for the touchdown. And so that person is credited with the scoring summary note. Okay. And all of these advanced things, I can always talk to you, later on. Now, punts aborted. As I mentioned, I think I went over this before. If aborted due to a bad snap or fumble, charge team A with a rush. If the play results in positive yards, charge into player with yards. So, as I mentioned this before, we'll go over it quickly again. Team A on the 30, center pass goes overhead and recovers the ball under duress. Charge team A with a team rush of minus 20 yards. So, I guess situation 2, if it's a positive yards, we'll charge the punter with a rush of 2 yards. So I guess I get the question. The question you're always going to get asked is, what if a properly centered ball happens to the punter? Boom, off his hands, fumble. Okay. Do we charge a team rush or do we charge the punter? Okay. On a properly centered ball, the punter muffs it or fumbles it. So in team A, ball on its 5, Adams back to punt, fumbles a properly centered ball, falls on the ball for a safety. We're going to charge the punter with a rush. Okay? We're not going to give the team because center did his job. Punter's got to do a little effort here by catching the ball, right? Charge him with a minus 5 yards and charge team A with a fumble, and team B gets safety for 2 points. Okay? Kickoff returns, I think pretty much straightforward. A player making a fair catch is not charged with a return. So, okay, any kind of kickoff or punt return, signal a fair catch to catch the ball is not considered a return. A muff is an unsuccessful attempt to catch the ball. It is charged, you are credited with a fumble on that play. Now, on a multiplayer kick return, where there is no attempt by the first player, you know how those plays where kicks off to the first guy, he runs one way, hands it off, it's part of a set play. The kickoff goes only to the second player. The first player gets no mention of having the kickoff return because it's part of a set play. Now, if it's one play where the kickoff return, first guy gets it and then laterals, then it's the same rules apply as if there were multiple handoffs in a running play or a receiving play. Okay? Allen receives the kick and the goal line and advances to the 5 only in an effort to hand the ball off to Adam. Adam laterals it to Alika and returns it to the 25. So do not charge Allen or Adam with the return. Charge Alika with a return of 25 yards. So unless it's really one of those, you saw those multiple handoffs and stuff like that, if it's one of those planned plays, then just give it to the last player. Yes?
This is like a really specific situation that has actually happened. I think it was a Kansas Jayhawks game where they had like one player dressed in all blue, like laid down in the end zone and pop up, but the other guy like ran like 3 yards forward. Does he get the kick return no yards and then?
If it's a planned play, in your opinion, you give it to the last player who.
Even if he advanced it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Because in this case, we're only going to credit laterals if it's something where it's like, oh, then yeah. Yeah, because if it's a planned play, we're going to give the last player the yards, in this case, where they started from. So as for example, let's say the first player catches the ball on the 5-yard line, and then as part of the play, throws it to the other guy who's in the end zone, let's just say, catches the ball, and then they say he's tackled at the 1-yard line. Okay? You're going to give the second player the kickoff return, but for -4 yards. Okay? Even though the first person did catch it at the 5, the net result is -4 yards. Okay? Okay? We're not trying to be too fancy. We're being consistent with everything else that same thing with the run option play, same thing with the things like that. We're treating the kickoff return the same play. Okay? Field goals, pretty much straight ahead. The post, since the goal posts are 10 yards behind the line of scrimmage, the goal line, if we're lining it up, we're going to add 10 more yards to the play. So if it's lining up from the 10-yard line, it's not a 10-yard field goal, it's a 20-yard field goal. So we add 10 more yards on this play. Again, if any part of the ball, when kicked, rests on or above the yard stripe, we credit it from that distance. If it's between the yard lines, we go with how the ball was pointed forward. So if it's between the 10 and the 11-yard line, how many yards is the field goal? Between the 10, it's 20 yards. Because the ball is spotted on the 10. No, I'm sorry. If the field goal holder is on between the 10 and the 11, and sometimes you might not know until they grab the ball and put the ball down. Because if they put the ball down between the 10 and the 11, it's a 20-yard field goal. But if the ball is placed down and it's now on the 11-yard line, it's a 21-yard field goal. Okay? So it's where the ball is kicked is going to determine how long the field goal is. Albert is ready to kick a field goal. The hold down lines up the ball between the 50 and the 14-yard. Albert's kick is good. How long is the field goal? 24 yards. Okay? As I mentioned earlier in the play-by-play, possession time on the clock at the start of each possession. And again, as I mentioned, the new line of scrimmage could be different because it's possible that, on a punt, the ball is fielded and the ball is caught, let's say, between the 10 and the 9-yard line. The official grabs the ball, puts the ball down between the 10 and the 9-yard line. For punting purposes, if the punt is from the yard line is from the 50-yard line to between the 10 and the 9-yard line, how far is the punt?
41 yards.
41? Everybody agree? Punt from the 50, ball goes to between, and the official lines it up between the 10 and the 9. We all agree 41 yards? Yes, you're correct, 41-yard line. But the ball stays there, 1st and 10 for the other team. Where is the ball on?
10 yards.
Ball's on the 10-yard line, right? Because if the ball stays the same, the nose of the ball is pointing in the opposite direction. Okay, so now just keep that in mind. All right, as I mentioned at the very, very top, your journey here as a statistician really doesn't end here with this class, okay? There are actually careers out there that people do take statisticians. As you know, I worked at Sports Information. I did stats all the years I've been there. In fact, I still do that now with Spectrum Sports and as well as OC16. You can literally make a part-time career out of doing stats. Natalie is a product of being a statistician, one way, shape, or form. And not only football, all sports. You really broaden your perspective by learning all these different sports. So just note that in addition to what I do, HHSAA does the computer stats, Spectrum Sports, OC16 High School, UH, Division II, college. They're always looking for statisticians no matter where you are. In fact, when the NFL even comes here or when the NBA comes here, they're looking for people to help keeping stats or helping with local television. So there's always opportunity there no matter where you are to be a statistician. So don't make this a one-shot deal. There's always things. Natalie, HHSAA, always looking for statisticians, not only in football, for all sports. We're not going to throw you in there right off the bat. We're going to teach you. We're going to learn a lot together. But again, it all starts with, a manual, a football statistician's manual. And in this case, this is the NCAA's football statistician's manual. I will provide a link to where you can download your copy. I believe we will also provide you with a link in our HHSAA website. In fact, here is the NCAA's link to it, and then of course you folks can feel free to download this page on the HHSAA statisticians page here, sportshigh.com, statisticians, or if you're watching this on the videotape, you can actually scan the QR code, and then that will take you to the resource page. So the NCAA's also has stat manuals for different sports, basketball, all of soccer, all of these different things. You always feel free to download them. That will provide you with the guidelines in terms of all of these little situations that we went through. Then there's even more. There's even more like sacks and things like that, penalties, all of the different situations. So again, feel free to consult that as well. In addition, don't make this a one-time thing. If you always need to talk with me, consult, question, anything, here's my email. Feel free to email me. I'm more than willing to help. I work with some of the Spectrum people, so I know I'll run into you folks down the road sometime, whether it's an A game, a B game, whatever. Even I tell you what, a true story. When I do stats, I always have another statistician, Greg Sato, who always does stats with us. He always calls me or texts me with any situation. He watches NFL games, college games. He says, Tom, I have a question about this certain situation. How do you do that? And then I basically would have a conversation. So if any of you folks want to have a conversation in regards to football stats, email me, text me, call me or let me know. More than happy to talk stats with you. And like I said, I've worked just in your spot before. With no experience, learn on the run, but 45 years later, here I am, always willing to help you folks. Natalie, you have any final thoughts?
It's always useful to have two different color pens. What I like to do, and that way I can differentiate between team A and team B. That kind of helps me. But yeah, Thomas is a mentor of mine. Still work with him to this day. I've been doing this for a long time, but I still ask him tons and tons of questions. So feel free to use him as a resource.
I will stay after the meeting in case if you have any questions. But other than that, thanks everybody for coming.